Hello, 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 hello. YouTube, hello. Oh my gosh. Discords, hello. Hello, everybody. Boop, 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 and you're all back on my screen. This is perfect. Okay, welcome to the Trans Network Voice Modification Workshop. We're going to be covering the entirety of Trans Voice today, from start to finish, the entire roadmap. So no matter where you are on your voice journey, you'll know where you need to go next. Perfect for beginners, but it should be good for all ability levels. Is there anything else I need to introduce? Apologies for me looking terrible today. I had laser like a few days ago, so I can't do anything to my face. I look horrendous, but whatever. Okie dokie, right, let's go into it then. So, first of all, some workshop rules and etiquette. This applies to the people in the Discords. First of all, thank you so much for coming. That's really awesome. We have people here. So rules are to just be respectful of a learning environment. So generally I'm talking keep things muted unless I let you know that you can unmute. Be respectful to your fellow attendees. I don't want anybody giving like mean critiques to other people's voices. If you're not sure, just don't say anything because I'll know what feedback to give, so you don't need to worry about it. So just keep things nice and respectful of your fellow attendees. Obviously no insulting each other, you know that, normal social etiquette things. Feedback on somebody's voice should be something constructive with something actionable. Again, if you don't know, you don't have to know. That's fine. That's what I'm here for. Cool. Also, let's keep things staying on topic. So during portions where you can unmute, I don't need a big story about what Lego you've just recently got or anything like that. We're keeping things on the topic of voice and on the topic specifically of gender affirming voice. Everything we do to achieve the voice presentation that we're wanting. We do have an open forum section at the end, so if you do have just general voice questions or stuff that I haven't really covered, so it's like hard to stay on topic but also ask a question, you'll have your opportunity at that point. So you just be able to ask anything voice. During that section as well, I do take one-on-ones. So if you're looking for me to specifically help you with your voice, then that's the section for that. And that section goes for just as long as we want it to go. Longest workshop we've done was like 4 or 5 hours. So yeah, we just stop when we get through everybody and nobody has any more questions and nobody wants help with anything else. So yeah, hopefully everybody can learn plenty. In the chats as well, do ask any questions you have. I highly encourage asking questions here. Sometimes I miss things. Every one of these workshops is a little bit different because I'll either add like a little tidbit or I'll forget to add a little something. So anything you don't understand, ask your questions. This is for you, so make sure that you're understanding it. Okay, firstly, who am I? Why are you listening to me? What's going on here? My name's Sarah. Pleased to meet you. I've been working on my own voice for roughly a year now. I say that as if I'm still doing it. I've basically finished with my voice now. Specifically, it took me about 8 months to develop my voice and like create it. And then I was just kind of sitting on that for a couple of months. And then after that, I was able to switch full-time to full-time go mode. At that point, I switched my voice to be full-time, and it took a couple of months to just acclimate that to everyday life and fully integrate it. In terms of my vocal coaching, I guess I'd be changing that aspiring vocal coach tomorrow. I'm currently doing a teacher training course. I've been doing teaching since August 2023, in that I've been doing these workshops every week since August, minus like the odd week here and there. And I've been doing one-on-one private lessons with people since, I think it was either October or November, something like that. I don't remember the exact month it started. But yeah. And yeah, I've been doing teacher training for the past 6 weeks. Tomorrow will be the 6th and final teacher training session. I'll be submitting my final project. And then that'll be it. We will be going out into the world. So as of tomorrow, I'm going to start labeling myself as just a vocal coach. And yeah, you'll be able to hire me like for an actual paid private lesson, and yeah, things will be going. So really exciting. More on that later, I suppose. Okie dokie. So what am I not? This is really important. I'm not a medical professional. I have no medical qualifications whatsoever. I cannot diagnose you with anything. I cannot help you with any medical issues. I cannot give you treatment. Everything we do here is just somebody teaching you how to make a particular voice, which is hopefully a voice that you're desiring. None of this is treatment of a disease. So if you speak to an SLP about like a specific pathology and it's been diagnosed, that's their stuff. That's nothing to do with what I teach you. The closest we ever get to anything like this is if I hear something in your voice that makes me think there might be an underlying pathology, I might just ask you to speak to your doctor. Doesn't mean you've got it. All it means is go have a conversation with your doctor because they'll know better than me. Any questions on that? Because that bit's like quite important. No questions. All right, let's keep going. So, let's talk about how the voice... Ooh. Is my thing working? Oh my gosh. On my screen, it's freaking out. Can we please just be on the slide that I'm on? It should say section 1, voice basics. Okay, voice basics. Let's go. That's not... What are we doing right now? There we go. Okay, sorry. My Google Slides just freaks out sometimes. It's like switching slides on its own. I don't know what it's doing. But whatever. So, maintaining vocal health. This is stuff that I want you to be keeping some account of as you do your voice training and just through your voice training journey. Things that are good to be doing. Making sure we're staying hydrated. You want to be drinking water all the time. I recommend at least 2 to 2.5 litres a day. You'll see me drink about 2 litres just in the course of this workshop. If you're on spironolactone, you might need to drink more than that because it's a diuretic, so you're going to be peeing more. You need to rehydrate that lost fluid. What else we got? Staying hydrated is really important for your vocal folds. They're very delicate muscles, and they have a mucous membrane to protect them. That mucous membrane is important, and you don't want it to become too viscous. You want that mucus production to protect everything. So yeah, hydrated, very important. Things are going to be easier to move as well when you're properly hydrated. So, excuse me, that's why I asked all of you to drink a pint of water an hour ahead of time. Water takes a long time to actually hydrate your vocal folds. When you drink, you aren't directly hydrating anything along the airway. This is because when you swallow, that goes down the pharynx, but your vocal stuff is in the larynx, because otherwise you would choke on it, it'd go into your lungs. So it's 2 different pathways, and you're going down into like the stomach and stuff. Different pathway. So, in order for your vocal folds to be hydrated, you have to drink the water. It goes through your digestive tract, enters your bloodstream, and then as your blood recirculates back to your vocal folds, then they finally get hydrated. That's for your whole vocal tract. So it just takes a little while. So make sure you're drinking ahead of time, at least like 20 minutes ahead of time. Or just stay hydrated all day. That's the best way. Cool. Okay, keeping relaxed is really important for everything we do in voice. I don't want you guys experiencing any strain or discomfort. If you're staying nice and relaxed, then you're going to access things much, much better. It's just easier to do everything from a relaxed posture. Cool. Warm-ups. Warm-ups are really important. We'll go over those in a future slide in terms of the way we warm up, because there's a particular way we like to do it. Warm-ups are really useful because they will increase blood flow to the area. It's like any exercise you do. You're doing exercise by talking because there are different muscles that are acting on your vocal folds and various other structures. So we want them to be nice and warmed up, nice and stretched out and flexible, and we want hydration to come to them, which will come as that increased blood flow comes to the area. So warming up is really important. And lastly, make sure you're having fun with this. This isn't like something where you want to be like super laser focused on one specific thing. There can be areas where some focus is important, but generally I want you exploring what your voice can do. It can do so much more than you think it can. So have fun with this, explore, and just, explore. That's explore. It's so useful and so important, because that's going to help you just feel out what you can do and where your voice can go, and how to control it. So, things to avoid. These first ones, they really don't matter very much. The last few matter a lot more. So, spicy foods. Spicy foods contain a molecule called capsaicin. That's what allows you to taste the spice. Capsaicin is a mild irritant for the vocal tract. It really isn't a big deal. It can just inflame things a little bit. That's why, like, if you've ever had something really spicy, you'll often cough on it. That's because of the capsaicin. Not a super big deal. Just don't have a bunch of chilies right before doing voice work. Rest of the day, that's up to you. Caffeine. Caffeine is also a slight irritant, as well as it dehydrates you because it's a diuretic. So again, keep caffeine reduced if you're going to be voice training imminently. A double espresso or a Red Bull right before this workshop, not such a good idea. Sugar dehydrates you. It's probably the least concerning on this list, but it's still something to keep in mind. Again, energy drinks right now is not the best time to be drinking them. Rest of the day is up to you. Smoking and vaping, pretty obviously bad for your vocal tract. You're breathing in hot air or hot smoke or hot steam. It's obviously going to be doing some damage. You all know this. It is possible to change your voice as a smoker or as a vapor. You're just making things a little bit harder for yourself. Definitely don't have any of that right before doing voice work. And generally, I would say keep things in moderation as much as you can. If it is an inspiration for you to quit, I would obviously love that for you. But it's not that you have to quit. But it would help. Dairy. Dairy's a weird one. Dairy will just promote mucus production. I did earlier say that mucus production is a good thing, but we want it regulated. Dairy will just have you excessively producing. So you'll be having to clear your throat often, which is then going to cause a little bit of irritation. Super not a big deal, but it's just worth keeping in mind. Okay, those ones, again, not a big deal. The smoking one a bit more of a big deal, but you already know that. Straining your voice, pain or discomfort or tension. Those are much more concerning to us. Firstly, anything where you're straining your body is not going to produce the sound you want it to produce. None of what we're doing now should be strenuous. It shouldn't be physically exerting. It's all pretty simple stuff in terms of like the physicality of it. This is just as easy for me to talk at as talking in my original unmodified voice. Because ultimately we're just talking. It's just a different way of, or it's just, you're adding some different like modifiers to your talking, but they're not adding extra physical effort, if that makes sense. And you'll see more of that as we go through the workshop. Just all of this is very simple stuff, physically speaking. It's difficult to know how to do it, but it's not, you're not having to like lift weights or anything. So if you feel strain or tension, that's a sign that there's some kind of inefficiency in some other muscle that's being activated that isn't needing to be activated. Pain, discomfort specifically, those are particularly concerning. If you're feeling pain, you're doing something wrong and you're potentially causing a little bit of damage to your vocal tract. Super not a big deal. It'll probably just mean that you need to take a couple of days off and let things recover. If you were to just push through the pain, that's where you can have much more serious issues. Listen to your body. If you start ignoring pain and you start pushing through it, then you're going to cause serious injuries because of that repetitive damage happening. If you keep doing that, you can eventually have what are we called? Vocal nodes starting to form. Those nodes have to be removed surgically. They're a big deal. I've never had someone have any of these issues. I don't plan on having anyone have any of these issues. I've never even heard of somebody actually ending up with the vocal nodes. Just know that if you're feeling in pain or discomfort, stop, review what you just did. Something you just did was wrong. Come to me for some advice if you need to. And just like take stock of that moment. And if you feel like you've hurt yourself a little bit, just take a couple of days off. It's not a big deal. Better to take a couple of days off than end up needing to take a week off. You know? So, yeah. Any questions about maintaining vocal health from anybody?
Yes. Should I write it down or can I use voice chat?
We'll stick to text chats for now, unless it's something where you don't really know how to word it. Just because it'll be easier for me to keep track of stuff. You will see me drinking a heck of a lot. And that's just because, one, I haven't stayed very well hydrated today. Do as I say, not as I do. But also, just talking for like 5 hours straight is very exerting. I've been doing it for 6 months and I'm still not fully used to it. Okie dokie, what if you have a job that requires a lot of talking? Does that mean you should take extra care to not strain your voice? Exactly, yeah. The most common job in the world to have vocal injuries is a teacher. So for people in that position where they're having to talk a lot, I would just recommend the vocal warm-ups I'm going to go over later. They're going to be useful for you. And just take some care with the way you talk. If you're going to be doing it like all day, just taking care not to do anything strenuous with your voice. Again, just listen to what your body is telling you. Pain, avoid it. You can still feminize your voice or masculinize your voice or androgynize your voice. Whatever you want to do, you can do that as somebody that already is exerting the voice a lot. Just, again, take care. If you've got scoliosis, will that affect you because your back is arched? I don't know of any reason why that would affect you. Check that with your doctor if you're concerned. We're not doing anything with the neck. So not that I would be aware of, but also I'm not a medical professional, so I can't really give good advice there. I can't think of why it would affect it though. Okay, any other questions? Okie dokie. So let's talk about how the voice actually functions. First of all, okay, this little diagram here, or this little model, this is called the power source filter model. It's a very oversimplified model. The purpose is just so you can get a rough idea of what's happening. Essentially, you have your lungs, and they're going to output air, all right? That air is going to go up into your vocal tract, okay? So we can think of that as like the power, the fuel for your voice, all right? Now, as that air continues from your lungs up your trachea, it enters the larynx. That's a box of cartilage right about here. It's a bit that sticks out, okay? The Adam's apple is a part of that cartilage. It's the, it was literally in my head like 2 seconds ago and it's completely left. It's the laryngeal protrusion, something like that. I can't quite remember, it's been a little minute. Point is, that's part of your thyroid cartilage on your larynx. It's a little box, that's why people call it the voice box. It houses your vocal folds and all of your stuff for actually producing the sound. So, the air goes up through your trachea into the larynx where it intersects with your vocal folds. If you look at the GIF where things are moving really crazy, you can see right at the back, right at the bottom of the larynx there, where those waves start coming out. That's the vocal folds opening and closing really, really quickly. Okay? As they open and close, they chop up the air and get it vibrating. Okay? that vibration is sound being applied. So now that air has a sound to it, okay, as it's vibrating around. Now, as it continues to vibrate and goes through your vocal tract, it bounces around the different chambers of your vocal tract, through your larynx, through your mouth, through your nose, around the space between your lips, until eventually it's expelled. As it bounces around and resonates, that alters the sound. We can think of that as like a filter being applied on the sound until you eventually have it outputted as a complete thing. Okay? So we have our power, we have the source of the sound itself, where we've got like pitch being applied, for example, and then we've got a filter being applied to the sound as it bounces around your vocal cavities. Okay? Does that make sense as a basic model? All right? And we're going to be thinking about this model as we go through our voice stuff. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes, Sarah, it makes sense. Okay, I saw a thumbs up. That'll do. That'll do. If I ask you if it makes sense, I need a yes so I know that you're following, okay? I don't want anyone to get left behind. So let's talk about the effect of testosterone. Let's talk about the effects of hormones at large. So firstly, the only hormone that affects your vocal tract is testosterone. Estrogen has no effect whatsoever, okay? The changes that happen as a result of testosterone exposure, are all permanent changes, all right? Now, we can change the sound through different behaviors, but the actual structure itself is permanent, okay? The only thing that changes the structure is either surgery or exposure to androgens, okay, testosterone. So none of what we're going to be doing is changing the structure. We're just going to be using those structures in different ways to change the sound. So what does testosterone actually do? First of all, those vocal folds I've talked about, that open and close rapidly, they're going to thicken up, all right? That thickening up is going to mean that when they close, they're going to spend more time closed because there's just more mass coming together. And when they open, they're going to spend less time open. Okay, so it'll be more like ba 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 as they open and close. Okay, because it's just a lot more mass being moved. All right. Also, those vocal folds are going to lengthen. That's going to slow down the opening and closing. All right. By slowing it down, we reduce the pitch. Literally, pitch is controlled by how fast your vocal folds open and close. If you've seen pitch being measured in hertz, hertz is literally the rate at which your vocal folds open and close in a single second. So let's say a pitch is at 220 hertz. That means your vocal folds went from closed, open, back to closed again, 220 times in 1 second. Okay? Lastly, your testosterone will also cause the larynx, we talked about earlier, to stretch out, okay? It'll lengthen. What that'll do is as the sound is bouncing around the larynx, okay, that's going to alter the way that sounds. I'll demonstrate that properly as we go forward, okay? Does everybody understand that bit? I want yeses in the chat if you do understand. Or ask me questions if you don't. Yeah? Cool. Good stuff. Okie dokie. So, let's talk about how we can do something about this. Whether we are trying to emulate having testosterone or whether we're trying to emulate not having been exposed to testosterone. So first of all, we're going to go over some warm-ups so that when we go into stuff, we're doing so in a healthy way. So, I mentioned some warm-ups earlier. Essentially, the way we warm up is by doing a semi-occluded vocal tract exercise, or a SOVT for short. Big word, don't be afraid of it. All it means, okay, if we break it down, semi-occluded just means partially closed. Vocal tract, we talked about what that is earlier. It's just everything from like the trachea out, okay? That's all the vocal tract. And then you know what the word exercise means. So partially closed vocal tract exercise. That's it. Super, super simple. Why do we do this? So I talked earlier about how the power, okay, that air from your lungs is coming up through the vocal folds and they're chopping that up. Now, if you think about what that's literally doing, that's a lot of pressure all being pushed up through your vocal folds, all right? Not super big deal, but if we're trying to stretch out, that's not a super fun situation. So what we can do is if we have a partial closure at the front of our vocal tract, that's then going to have pressure pushing back against that pressure pushing up, okay? And they'll start cancelling each other out. If we want to get into fancy words, we have subglottal pressure, pressure below the vocal folds that are pushing up, and supraglottal pressure, pressure from up pushing down, okay? And that supraglottal and subglottal are going to start cancelling each other out. So now, because we have those two forces acting against each other, cancelling each other out, we have less pressure on the vocal folds. Does that make sense? So the subglottal and the supraglottal cancel each other out. So now we just have a very small amount of subglottal pressure, whereas before we had a much larger amount. So now we have that smaller amount of pressure. We can stretch things out, get them nice and comfy as we do our exercise. So how do we actually do this? First of all, keep in mind, everything I've just explained to you means that we want to use whatever we're doing, we want it to produce maximal supraglottal pressure. So we remove as much of that subglottal pressure as possible. Okay? So there's a few ways we can do this. A very popular one is the lip trill or bilabial trill. Bilabial just means your lips. Both of them. A lip trill just sounds like this. Okay? And then to do the exercise, we just start moving around in pitch. And you get it? So I'm going further and further every single time. All right? So a small movement up and down, a larger movement up and down, a larger still up and down. We keep going until we hit the maximum ranges of our pitch, both up and down. Okay? So lip trill is one way we can do it. We can also do a tongue trill. That's the French R. There's a few different ones we can do. I haven't got them all written down here. I need to get the graph over. Because we're really good studying it, but have a really good graph on just all the different pressures you can do. The letter V is a pretty good one. I think Z was an okay one. It was all right. What other ones were on that graph? Those are the main ones. Those ones are pretty good. Most people can do at least one of them. Ones that are less good, with an N, or with an M, like humming. Those do not produce much pressure, so they're a little bit rubbish. The absolute best of these is the straw phonation. So if I grab a bottle of water, I grab a straw, I stick my straw in about an inch, and I blow bubbles, and then I start making sounds through those bubbles. Now I'm doing a bubble phonation, or a straw phonation, okay? Now that bubble phonation produces the most pressure. And if you want to, you can go further down and it'll produce more and more pressure as you go further down. Generally, you want it to be such that you can feel some resistance, but it's not difficult to do, okay? Just feel out your different straw depths and you'll get an idea of what will work best for you. Bubble phonations are the best, however, they are inconvenient because you need a straw with you, you need a bottle of water, you're probably going to need it about only half full so you don't splash water everywhere. It's messy. It's not conducive to regular practice. If you can be doing your bubble phonations, that's wonderful. And I would always say, if you have the option, bubble phonations are best. However, especially if you're brand new to voice work, I want you doing these regularly through the day. So if you're brand new, I want you doing this free for maybe even 5 times a day, for like 30 seconds or so. So this just isn't very convenient. So if you can do this, great. If not, just go for like a lip trill or something. It's much simpler. You can do it wherever. You always have your lips with you. So don't worry about it. It's all good. In terms of practice, as I said, several times a day, for about 30 seconds or a minute. I do not want, like, especially with softies, if you're going like 10 minutes, that's way excessive. You're going to just super tire yourself out. So keep things sensible in terms of how long you're doing them for. Any questions? I'm definitely going to need a water top up. We've been going for like half an hour and I've almost gotten halfway through my water. So the key for these is creating pressure / resistance. Yes, exactly. There's a study that goes over softies. If you want it, let me know later and I will link it to you. Yeah, specifically we're wanting intraoral pressure. Okay. That's like the useful sort of supraglottal pressure for us. That just means pressure in your mouth. Yeah, no worries. When trilling, what pitch do I start with? Do I also try to go deeper when expanding the range? So just start at whatever base pitch for you. Something relatively like in the middle-ish. It doesn't really matter too much. And yes, you want to be expanding down and up, okay? In terms of pitch. Is it expected to stop being able to trill your lips after a short while, even though you still got breath? No, that means you're doing something wrong. You probably have either you're pushing your lips too hard together maybe, or you're pushing too hard. Try to be gentle with your voice as you do this. I really like lip trills because they go wrong if you do it wrong. So they're really good for keeping good technique. I also really like the bubble phonations of this because they kind of force you into good technique. So if you just can't figure out the technique, do some bubble phonations and you'll get it immediately. But generally, if you're having issues where your lips just stop going, then the issue is probably you're either putting too much air pressure, or you're pushing your lips together too hard. If you want, you can increase your intraoral pressure by just pressing on your cheeks a little bit. You've got less of a space, so it's a bit easier for you. Yeah, the two main things I would expect is if your lips stop moving, that's probably you pushing too hard. And if your sound cuts out, that's you pushing too hard on your vocal folds, okay? That's too much subglottal pressure. Excuse me. Guess you got some homework to figure this out. Thanks for ideas on what it might be. Yeah, no worries. If you're brand new to voice work, start here. It's going to help you produce some really, really good healthy habits. I recommend starting here for just like a week or so is fine. Spend a week doing this. As I said, several times a day for 30 seconds to a minute. 2 minutes is fine too. I'll go for like a max duration one for demonstrative purposes here. And yeah, this is just a good place to start. Good healthy habits. It's not going to alter your voice literally at all, but it will have you using healthy habits as you go into the voice modification stuff. Lastly, if you are a vocal underdoer, that's somebody who speaks so little that the vocal muscles have actually atrophied a little bit. This is going to be people that speak for less than an hour a day. those people, the softies are going to be wonders for you. You might find yourself struggling to go for a long duration. That's fine. Just build yourself up. Softies are going to be really good for helping you build that muscle back up. None of us are really building muscle. It's just those people that have lost the muscle that are building back up to where we're at. You're doing 30 seconds 7 to 8 times a day. That's brilliant. Yeah, I love that. 7 to 8 times a day is like, wow. I don't expect most people to do that, but if you can do that, then hell's yeah. When we're talking practice, I want like frequency, not duration. So the more practices you do a day, the better. But the length of time you do them for isn't super important. As long as it's a minimum of like 30 seconds, then that's fine. What's the point of these again? So for vocal underdoers, it's for building your muscle up back to just an ordinary strength. For everybody else, this is a warm-up. So we're stretching out the vocal folds. So they're nice and stretched out and warmed up, ready for us to do actual voice work. They also help teach us some really good vocal habits about not pushing too hard and keeping things nice and gentle. So this is what's going to help you stay relaxed, like we were talking about earlier. Softies are good for loads of things. They'll also help cure your morning voice. So if you're somebody who struggles with just everything feeling really groggy, you can't really control your voice very well in the morning, maybe it's a bit deeper in the morning, classic morning voice things, Softies will help you get rid of all of that. The reason we get morning voice is because of mucus build up overnight. Normally we swallow our mucus throughout the day, but when you're sleeping, you're not swallowing, so it's just building up. Also, a lot of dust is coming into your vocal tract just as you breathe. So that's all piling up in the mucus, making everything really sludgy and really gross. So doing some Softies will help clear all of that mucus away, as well as providing some more blood flow to get things going in the morning. So Softies are going to be really, really good for you if you're struggling with morning voice. And as I said, they're just a good warm-up in general. So after your week of doing these like every day, several times a day, it can just be before doing any significant voice work. If you're going to be doing voice work for like a few minutes at least, then do a Softie first. Or do like 30 seconds of Softies first. Okay? Any more questions? And man, as I'm talking, I can super tell that I have not drank enough today. I'm 100% going to need a top up because there's a litre of water gone in the past hour. Is it bad to do Softies for more than a minute at a time? No, that's totally fine. If you're doing it for like 5 minutes, that's probably a bit much. But you'll know when to stop because we're going to be slowly going for a small movement and building up until we get to the max range. So there's kind of like, it's just like a maximum amount of time you'll be able to do it for because eventually you've hit max and there's nothing much more to do. Okay, let's do a quick demonstration. If you guys want to follow at home muted, that's totally fine. Yeah, just do as I do. Okay, so I'm going to do a lip trill, but you can do bubble phonations, you can do tongue trill, you can do a V, whatever you want to do is totally fine. Okay, all right. Okay, and that is the maximum range that I can do. Hello, Metatech. Hello for joining us in the YouTube chat. We're going over some trans voice stuff. So I'm very glad you're able to join us. Boo, 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 boo. Also, for those that don't know, I'm reading from 4 different chats right now. There's the YouTube chat, there's the Trans Academy Discord, there's my Discord, the Trans Network Discord, and there's the Trans Voice Discord. So there's a lot on my screen right now. It's kind of hard to not laugh doing these. Yeah, do your best not to laugh, I suppose. You can laugh afterwards. You love my work? Thank you so much. I love being here to receive it. Oh, that's really nice to read. Okie dokie. So, one last thing that I also do is once we've gone to the max ends of our range, I then do one where we go up, we do a little siren. I'll show you what that is. And then we go down and do the same thing. So that sounds like this. Okay, the idea of that is we're just getting a nice last little stretch out. Okay. For some reason, your lip trills stop trilling between tone ranges. There's still sound going out, but there's no trill. What mistake are you making? I would guess it's probably something to do with your airflow. Your airflow is probably a little bit unstable. If it's specific tone ranges, then I would guess that you're pushing out too much air or too little air during those tones. It could also be that you're just running out of air, like you're running out of breath, in which case do your softy a little bit quicker or regulate your airflow a little bit more. I do that all the time though, because I go way too slow. If we could stay muted, please, until I say otherwise, that'd be really helpful. Thank you. It just helps to deal with like echoes and stuff. But do ask your questions in the chat. Okay, so any other questions about softies? Now you guys have given it a go. Also, if you've arrived late or you need to recap on anything, by all means watch through the YouTube. If you watch through the YouTube, you can rewind a little bit. I recommend for demonstrations, keep that on 1 time speed. But everything else you could have as like 1.25 times speed so that you slowly catch up. And then you'll be back to live again, or whatever speed works where you can still understand it. I think I've just answered your exact question there, Meshtech. Yeah, just give it a little rewind and I'll explain exactly what softies are. And watch whatever speed is like you can still absorb the material while still catching up. What is best of them to do? I assume you mean which softy is best, and that would be the straw phonation or bubble phonation. No worries, Metatech. What link? It's below me. There? No, there. That's where it is. YouTube.com/@trans_network for YouTube. And YouTube has a thing now where you can like set the speed on a dial, so it could be like whatever speed you want it to be. It's not like a pre-selected thing. In case you're wanting like 1.6 speed or something. Okie dokie. Any last questions about softies? You're going to get what you need for straw phonations. I would recommend go for a bottle rather than a glass, and I would recommend filling it only halfway up. Reasoning for that is very obvious. When you're doing your bubble phonations, you're blowing bubbles and it's going to splash everywhere. Bottle is going to contain that, especially if it's only half full. If you're using a glass, it will go everywhere. I promise you it will go everywhere. Have something on you anyway, in case you need to wipe up. Bubble phonations are messy. They just are. it be what it be. I'm sorry. Okie dokie, let's keep going then. So, weight/glottal quotient. Welcome. This is our very first gender modification thing. So, what is weight/glottal quotient? First of all, the sound difference is this. Right now, I have an open quotient. I'll explain what that means in a minute. Or a light vocal weight, a light perceptual vocal weight. Okay. Whereas right now, I have a heavier vocal weight or a more closed glottal quotient. Okay. Do you hear that buzzing going on in my voice? Nothing much more has changed. There's just a lot of buzzing going on right now. Okay. Whereas right now, I don't have any of that buzzing happening anymore. So that's the difference that we're listening out for. Now, literally what's happening here is our vocal folds. I mentioned earlier about them thickening from testosterone exposure, okay? Vocal folds close, then they open, then they close, then they open, and they just repeat that over and over again, okay? The closed, open, closed is called, that cycle is called the glottal cycle, okay? So, every single glottal cycle, closed, open, closed, all right? You could imagine that despite it just being closed, open, closed, it's actually a lot more, there's way more than that going on. This is just like a really simplified version. But you can have a lot of variation within that. For example, I could have closed, open, closed, open, closed, open, closed, with a spending like most of it closed. Or I could have like open, closed, open, closed, open, closed, open, with a spending more of it open, okay? So if we're spending more time open than closed, then we call that an open quotient. If we spend more time closed than open, we'll call that a more closed quotient, okay? Because it's like a quotient of the glottal cycle, okay? In terms of a sound, we could think of that as having a lighter weight, because it sounds just lighter, or a heavier weight, it just sounds heavier, okay? That weight thing isn't referring to anything real, it's referring to how it sounds to you, okay? Whereas the quotient is referring to the actual mechanics of it. So it's just the same thing viewed in two different lenses. Okie dokie. Does that make sense so far for everybody in terms of what we're talking about right now? And then if that makes sense, I will teach you how to play with it, how to explore it. Yeah, makes sense? Good stuff. Okie dokie. And by all means, like, this is where I'm going to need you guys asking any questions that you have, because this is going to be, as we go forward from now, things are going to get more information dense. So definitely ask questions. Don't fall behind. Okay. If you have a question, somebody else has that same question. So always keep that in mind. All right. Also, if I miss somebody's question, just like at me and reply to that question so that I know to go back and check it. Because I do that sometimes. Okie dokie. So, a couple of exercises for us to play with this. First of all, we'll go for my favourite ones. We have the pitch sigh. This is going to get us a more open quotient. So if you just go for a nice and high pitch, okay? And I want you to be nice and relaxed as you go for that high pitch. If you're nice and relaxed as you go for that high pitch, it should induce you to have a nice and light vocal weight, or a nice and open quotient, okay? That sounds something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're going to be talking like that, keeping things nice and gentle. So as you're doing that sigh, you'll hear that gentleness in the sigh, hopefully. There's no buzzing in there at all, okay? If you want to, you can go all the way into your falsetto range for that. Excuse me. The better name for falsetto is M2. That's technical stuff. It's outside of the scope of this workshop. If you're interested, message me in my Discord and I'll explain it further. But we call it M2. Some people call it head voice. It's a bad word. All voices are in your throat. I hate head voice and chest voice. Just mean nothing. Your voice isn't in your chest. It's not in your head. It's in your vocal tract. It's always in your vocal tract. But whatever. So yeah, you can go all the way up into your M2 if you need to. Just make sure you're back into your M1, your regular talking, what I'm in right now, or modal voice, some people call it, or chest voice. Make sure you're back in that by the end of the slide, okay? By the end of the sigh. Okay, so again, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and you can replace the 1, 2, 3, 4 with anything. I'm just doing that so it's really, really easy for you guys to hear. We could do an heat from fire, fire from heat. Okay, if we're doing the classic. All right, can I get everybody that is feminizing? Everybody unmute. Everybody unmute. This is my favorite one, so we're all going to give it a go. Okay, everybody give me a really big pitch slide. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Brilliant. Okay, that was really, really good. Okay, mute your mics again. That was great. Everybody sounded like they were doing great stuff there. So that's exactly what I want. That's your drill. The only thing I will mention there is watch out. Okay, I'm going to do 2 versions. Watch out that it sounds like the first one, not the second. Okay, and you guys listen out for what it is before I tell you what it is. Okay, first one. And then I'm going to do the wrong thing. Did you hear the difference? Okay. I'll give you a couple of moments to guess. What did I add in the second one? Again, the first one. Second one. Breathiness. Yes, well done, Sylvie. Perfect. Breathiness, that's exactly it, okay? So watch out for you're not going breathy during this, okay? Breathiness is a different thing from open quotient, okay? Or light vocal weight. All of those typings that suddenly stopped typing, I'm sorry. I should have waited for you first. But yeah, so watch out if you don't go breathy with this, okay? Because if you go breathy, your voice is going to start sounding like this, which is a totally different thing to just sounding like this, okay? Breathiness as a thing is okay, but it's only when we're intending to be breathy, okay? If we're trying to control quotient or weight, that's just a different thing. So make sure that that's the thing that you're controlling, okay? Hi, Liz Mara. Yeah. Boo. You might also sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's totally fine, okay? You haven't done the other modification yet that's going to have the brighter or brightness that comes with a fem voice if that's where you're going, okay? So if you're sounding like this, that's totally fine as well. Or if you're sounding like this, I suppose, for those that have got like a really, really dark thing going on, okay? This is still totally fine as well, okay? But what I don't want is this. So do you hear that buzziness has just come back into my voice, okay? So that's the difference if we're in this unmodified state, okay? Right now, I have that that heavy vocal weight, that closed glottal quotient. And right now, I don't have any of that buzziness going on. I have an open quotient, a light vocal weight. All right, does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? Any questions at all about weight or glottal quotient before we move on from it? Oh, for reason why you do that. Oh wait, why am I moving on from it? We've got so much more to cover there. I haven't even gone on with a closed quotient, a heavy vocal weight. Sorry, my brain is just, I'm losing my marbles, okay? We also have our closed quotient, or a heavy vocal weight for the masculizers, okay? For that, we want to do a similar pitch slide, but we're going to go from our, or really from any pitch, but we can just start at like our bass pitch, okay? And we're going to slide as far down as we can possibly go with our pitch, okay? You'll start hearing, it'll go weird, okay? Your voice will go weird, all right? That's what we're looking for. So, So that's getting us down into that really weird area, okay? That's called the grave extension, all right? Now within the grave extension, there's going to be two main things that start happening. We're going to have creak coming into it, which is a type of fry. And we're going to have a really super close quotient coming into it, okay? This is going to get you like a heavier, more close quotient voice than even most cis men, okay? So you get to go like super crazy with this one. All right. So we're going to go all the way down there. And then we're going to take that heaviness, that closed quotient, and we're going to drag it back up to our bass pitch. It takes a lot of practice to get good at this. But once you do get good at this, you can be buzzy as freaking heck. Okay. So it'll sound like this for the full drill. And now I have that super buzziness going on. I have a lot of weight going on. It's really heavy. This does often induce people to go quite loud. It's quite difficult to go to a closed quotient while being quieter. But this is something that you'll get better at with your training, okay? So if I then try to quieten it down, I can then quieten it down to a normal talking volume. And now we aren't super loud anymore. Okay, so play around with that, and you'll get there in the end. The closed quotient one is definitely harder than the open quotient one. It'll take more time to get to it, but once you get there, you're going to be like super crazy amounts of closed quotient. Also, if you find that your creak is coming up with the closed quotient, don't worry, it's fine. Let the creak come in. If you don't want creak, deal with that later. First, get good at bringing that closed quotient up. Okay? All right. I am going to pop to the toilet. Get any questions in the chat that you have so far. Okie dokie. All right, let's have a look at some of these questions. You joined at the perfect time. Good. You wanted to ask about breathiness. You feel like you're really being held back by your your bad breath control when your allergies are being annoying. You either get super breathy or super flat and sort of whistly, if that makes sense. So I don't know what your allergies are doing specifically in your case. Usually if we're talking big allergy stuff, we're talking some kind of contraction of the vocal tract, maybe some more mucus production. What do people will do when they have allergies? I don't get allergies. I'm very lucky like that. But they're the main things that I'm thinking. The whistliness might be coming from that constricted vocal tract. I would generally say, while you're getting good at this, avoid training while you've got allergies going on. I know that's really annoying, but it be what it be. As you get better with this, bring it in to the rest of your life, because I don't want you to only do your voice like when it's not allergy season. Eventually you want this to be a full-time thing. But early days, it might be difficult while you're building your technique. Blocked nose and mucus production mainly, plus asthma as well. So for the mucus production, soft teas are going to help a lot. Asthma as well, yeah, it's all building up in all the worst ways for you. yeah, I would say maybe take a little break and wait for the allergies to go down. I know that's really annoying. It's not the advice you want to hear, but while you're getting good at this, I would recommend, like, while you're still a beginner, I would recommend just sort of taking a break. And yeah, mucus stuff, softies are going to help you there. Yeah, that's sort of what is going on there, I'm afraid. I don't know if I would say that breathiness is a matter of false fold engagement. I imagine the two could be connected to one another in terms of like people will often do them together. But in terms of what breathiness is, it's literally just more air output without more subglottal pressure. So if you're just passing more air through your vocal folds without it actually being pressurized air, that's going to have breathiness coming in. Does that make sense? So like normally we have that closed, open, closed. During the closed, we're building up pressure and it's released in the open. But if in that open, we also have a bunch of extra air come through that isn't pressurized, that's when breathiness comes in. In terms of what you do, if you just breathe out as you're talking, it'll go breathy. So if I go, hi, now I'm using a breathy kind of a voice, all I'm doing is I'm breathing out a whole bunch as I'm talking. Okay? You can hear that I'm having to breathe in way more because I'm running out of air really, really quickly. That's what's going on. You got to head off, Zoe? No worries. If you want to, you can rewatch the VOD. It'll stay up forever if you wanted to catch up on stuff. Also, by all means, come by next time. Hopefully you've got some stuff you can work on. And being as you're in like my server, like you're always welcome to just ask me questions. I try to keep on top of things as best as I can. Boo, 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 boo. Softies have been helpful? Yeah, it sounds like you've got an issue with mucus. I don't know why any of that would make you go breathy. Like try just breathing. I know it sounds silly, but try just breathing out less. You could also try, if you're going breathy, try to increase the breathiness, okay? Go like if you're going like this, go like this, where you're going super insanely breathy, okay? Go more breathy and then try to take it away again to develop that bit of control. As you do that, and as you gain control, you should be able to remove more and more to get you to a normal talking amount. But again, if you're having issues because of like allergies and stuff, like it's probably just take a little break. Because I don't want you causing any issues for yourself. What's the best way to realize you're drifting into breathiness? The sound. Anything where you're analyzing your voice, analyze it based off of a sound, okay? So do you sound like this, or do you start sounding like this? Yeah? That's what to look out for. Just the difference in sound. And with everything we do in voice, anything where we're unsure, okay, listen to the sound. Everything in terms of analysis is all about the sound, okay? There's a common pattern with vocal training, accentuate the mistake so you can control it, and then it's easier to cut back. Yeah, absolutely. Anything where you don't have a drill that's super easy to use, instead just do more of a thing, because even doing more of a bad thing is you learning to control it, okay? So if you can do more of it, you can do less of it. And if you can do less of it, you can do even less of it. That makes sense? And so over time, eventually you can remove the thing that you're trying to remove. So any weird stuff, obviously ask me about it because I might have a specific drill that can help you. But if in doubt, just accentuate the mistake and lean into it so that you can then gain control and then pull it away. Okay? Alrighty, a couple of other exercises we can use, popular ones that are talked about. I'm less of a fan of these, but they are useful in their own right. The problem with these is they rely on a shared cultural understanding. So I'm making a voice that is evoked by these descriptions, but you might not make that same voice. So if what you do, based on these instructions I'm about to give, sounds like what I do, it's fine. But if it doesn't sound like what I do, then you'll want to use a different exercise or go to the universal ones, which are going to be of a pitch size or a pitch slide down into grave. Okay? So, first one we can think about, okay, is imagine you have a little baby, okay? It's a really cute baby, and it's just drifting off to sleep. So you're just going to kind of talk to it and coo at the baby as it's falling asleep, okay? Cute baby. Fall asleep, baby. Okay, or if I drop things back over to her. Oh, cute baby. Okay, now I want you to imagine that baby has just thrown up on you. Grace baby. Okay, or if I flip things to down here. Gross baby. Gross. Okay, now that is going to have is a really light vocal weight, a very open quotient, or is a much heavier vocal weight, a more closed quotient. Okay. Now, if you do those, if that's how you would actually coo at a baby, or if that's how you even imagine that sound, that's fine, and that'll work. If you don't do the baby voice, if that's not like a thing for you, you might struggle more with that version of the exercise. Okay. Another one we can do is the ASMR voice versus sports announcer voice. So if anybody has listened to some softly spoken ASMR, they kind of talk to you like this, really, really gentle, really soft, a very open quotient, a very light vocal weight. We're trying to just avoid any sharp sounds, anything that's super in your face. The person listening to the ASMR is going to find uncomfortable. It's gentle, it's relaxing. This is going to be our open quotient, our ASMR voice, okay? Versus if we're going to a sports match, oh my gosh, sports, things to do with sports, batter out, strike, things to do with sports. Again, I don't know anything about sports, but that's the idea. If you're struggling, copy the Wii Sports person. Everything I just said, I copied from Wii Sports, because that's the only sports that exists in my life. Again, if you've never heard ASMR, then you're probably going to struggle with this one. But if those two sounds are intuitive to you, then lean into that intuition. You may as well use it. The last one is also the yawn voice. This is one where I'm not a fan of this drill, but if you need it, it's there. So if nothing's working for you and you just can't do it, give a big yawn, okay? And then talk as if you're maintaining that yawn posture, all right? It will sound like this. Now, the issue with it is it will only sound like this, okay? It will have a open quotient, a light vocal weight, okay? It won't have any buzziness in it, but it will also have this dopey sound to it because we're doing a yawn voice. It just forces you into this one specific configuration. Not my favourite because you don't have much flexibility there. But if you can't make this work, it's there for you. It's a tool, you can use it. Okie dokie, any questions? We have actually covered everything now. Weight / glottal quotient is connected with pitch. Remember, pitch is how fast we're vibrating our vocal folds, closed, open, closed, no, closed, open, closed, open, closed, open, closed, over and over and over again. Speed at which we do that is pitch. Higher pitch we go. If we're having less closure, it's easier for us to go faster. If we're having more closure, it's harder for us to go faster and easiest for us to go slower. Okay. In terms of the impacts of this, it's easier for you to go to a higher pitch with a light quotient. With a light weight or open quotient, hence for pitch psi. And it's impossible for us to go to our lowest pitches without a more closed quotient, hence sliding all the way down into grave extension. Okay, so those exercises are based upon the fact that weight or glottal quotient impact pitch. Okay, again, you cannot hit your lowest pitches with a light vocal weight. Something you can play with here is like if we go for like an extended version of a pitch side drill, we could start off with a heavy, low pitch. I'm trying to go really low here, okay? We're going to slide up and we're going to reduce our vocal weight as we go, okay? We'll go for a more open quotient as we go up. And then if I try to bring that back down, I'll keep going down as far as I can. Listen to what happens with my voice. I'm not going to change the weight, okay? So we'll stay at a light weight and an open quotient, or light weight / open quotient. Listen to what happens when I don't add that extra closed quotient or heavy vocal weight. Okay, did you hear that at the end? Sound cut off, and I was just breathing out air. All right, the phonation just cut. The reasoning for that is because I didn't have that closed quotient. I didn't have enough vocal weight to support that lower pitch. All right, so that's why those bottom exercises work. That's why they're universal. If you're having issues where phonation is just cutting out at a light vocal weight, try upping the pitch a little bit and see what that does for you. Can you have a heavy, high-pitched voice? You can, but it's a little bit difficult. So if I go like, I start straining a little bit as I'm doing that. If you've got really good technique, you can do that pretty well, and it'll be fine. You won't even need to strain. But you'll probably need to practice to do that. Most people can't just do that without any practice and training. If I was to go back to my unmodified, you can hear it's getting iffy, it's getting difficult, because I'm not lightening that vocal weight. Most people will have a much easier time going to an open quotient and it'll feel more natural. Also, you won't be able to go into falsetto with a heavy vocal weight or a closed quotient, because falsetto inherently is, technically, it's like a hyper open quotient. It isn't what we're talking about when we say open quotient, because we're trying to modify your M1, your normal talking. But that's why during that pitch psi, you're allowed to go all the way up into M2, so long as you go back into M1 by the end of it. Oh, also, if you go higher in pitch with a heavy vocal weight or a closed quotient, you're probably going to find yourself going louder and louder and louder, because you're going to be creating more and more subglottal pressure. And subglottal pressure is what modulates volume. Okay, any other questions? Do we have any masculizers, by the way? Just to check in on that. Any masculizers at all?
Yeah. A mask.
Yeah? Cool. Okay. Being as we have a masculizer, let's all do a little practice of our pitch slide down into grave. We're going to grab that heavy vocal weight, that closed quotient, we're going to drag it back up, okay? So everybody together, because I don't want just for one person so they feel weird. Everybody together, we're going to do the closed quotient drill, okay? All right, 3, 2, 1, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I did terrible on that. I'm going to do it again just to make sure it's super clear for everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're taking that buzziness that we find down there, dragging it out. Okay, all right, that was wonderful, everybody. Mute again. For our masculizer, that's what you're going to be practicing for weight/global quotient. All right, any other questions in the chats? You can all remute again. Love to have a masculizer. We very rarely have masculizers. I'm very glad that we have one today. Was it bad that you coughed hard after the exercise? Possibly. That might have been some strain coming in. But you're feminizing, so you don't actually need to have it perfect. Masculizer though, you do. I assume you're feminizing. I see she, her, and I assume feminization. Do correct me if I'm ever wrong on that. Okie dokie. No questions? I'm going to move on if there are no other questions. Everybody's understanding. Alrighty. Looks like we've covered everything. So let's move on to our next thing, okay? So reminder of things that testosterone does, okay? It will it will add vocal fold mass, it will stretch out the vocal folds, and it will increase the size of our larynx, okay? So we dealt with the thicker vocal folds, all right? So you can either emulate that for a more closed quotient, a more heavy vocal weight, or you can emulate not having had that testosterone through doing an open quotient or a lighter vocal weight. Now let's approach that larynx size, okay? So, first of all, let's show you exactly the sound modification that's happening. This is my ukulele. I'm muting the strings so that all you hear is the sound resonating through the chamber, the body, okay? Imagine this is our larynx before estrogen exposure. Testosterone exposure. Give it a listen to. Okay, now we're going to expose it to testosterone and it gets bigger, all right? Listen to what happens as you make a chamber bigger, but you do the same thing to it. Okay? Do you hear that difference? One of them sounds way larger than the other, okay? It's a darker, bigger sound, all right? That's what androgens, that's what testosterone do to your larynx, okay? That larger vocal tract size is creating a darker sound, okay? In terms of people, we can see this super clearly demonstrated, okay? First of all, your larynx, you can actually move it up and down. As you move it up, you shrink it in size. As you move it down, you expand the size. Okay? We can see what happens when we change the size literally by seeing it. Okay? So, there's my Adam's apple to help you find it. Okay? Watch it move up and down. Okay? Now listen to the sound difference of that, okay? Okay, so you can hear it as it gets larger and shrinks and gets smaller, all right? You can hear that change in the sound. That's that filter we were talking about in the power source filter model, okay? We've literally brightened the sound. We've made it sound like we have a smaller larynx, okay? By just raising the floor up and creating a smaller space, okay? So, boo. How do we do this? Okay, the exercise I like to go for is the big dog, little dog. It's a very good exercise. you'll find this most spaces you go to. Big dog, little dog sounds like this. You pant like you're a big dog. And then you pant like you're a little dog. Okay? That's it. That change in your sound is your larynx moving up. Okay? Watch my larynx. Alright? My larynx went up. The reasoning for that is essentially what we're doing is whispering. Alright? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Yeah, so essentially we are whispering. When you whisper, your vocal folds aren't doing the close, open, close thing. Okay? We're not phonating, is what the technical term is for that. So, because we're not doing that, technically there is a pitch, obviously, but for our purposes, we can say that there's not pitch going on. Okay? That's no simplification, but for our purposes, it's totally fine. It's a useful model. If you want a more technical term, it's a non-harmonic sound. So, that's useful. Why is it useful? A common thing that people are going to muddle this up with is pitch, okay? I don't want you going, that's pitch. The sound changer I'm wanting is, that's your larynx moving up and down, or down and up, okay? That's the sound that we're going for. So again, big dog, little dog. And then we're talking a really, really small dog, okay? Now we have a very raised larynx, okay? And that's brightening that sound. It's reducing the size of our vocal tract, okay? Some people call this resonance. They're referring to the fact that the sound is resonating through a chamber. So by having that smaller chamber, they call that a brighter resonance, okay? Any of these terms are totally fine, so long as you're using them consistently, okay? And you're using them to mean the right thing. Does that make sense to everybody in terms of what this is and what we're doing and how we do it? And if there are any questions about larynx height, vocal tract size so far? This is probably going to be the biggest change to your voice. This is also like really hard to do. So do not worry if you're struggling at first. When I say hard to do, I mean technically difficult, not physically difficult. Raising your larynx is like no effort at all. Just knowing how to do it is the difficult bit. I'm assuming the larynx should feel comfortable when raising it. Yep, totally comfortable. You'll barely feel it. This is why, and I know I'm referring to your anatomy here, but I don't want you to focus on the anatomy. I want you to focus on the sound, okay? You'll barely feel it when your larynx moves, okay? For a masculizer, you might feel it as you go down. I do get some sensation as I go down with my larynx height, but going up, you barely feel it. There's like a slight bit of physical feedback, but you just don't feel it very much. So don't rely on the sensation, rely on the change in sound. If you're feeling a lot, you're probably doing something wrong. Are there other size/resonance focused exercise not based on the larynx? Kinda. So we did our little ukulele versus guitar thing earlier, okay? Because that was a chamber changing in size. You have more than one chamber in your vocal tract, though. Your larynx is your first vocal your first chamber. Your second chamber is your mouth, your intraoral space. Technically, there's also your nasal chamber. And then your third chamber is just the space in between your lips. Any of those can also change the vocal tract size, but they'll change it in different ways, okay? So something I do have my more advanced students work on sometimes, because some people don't. Usually, for big dog, little dog, will have you doing all the stuff you need to do. However, for some people, they won't do much with their oral chamber, and I'll encourage them to do a little bit. For that, we use an exercise. If you've been in linguistics, they call this embouchure. Most places outside of linguistics call this R2. I don't mind what terms you use, so long as you're using them for the right thing. Also, if you delve into it, the R1, R2, R3, R1 being larynx, R2 being oral, R3 being lips. The idea behind that is that it roughly tracks to the performance, F1, F2, F3. This isn't actually very accurate. I wouldn't mind R1, R2, R3 if it wasn't for people trying to add on that it also syncs up with F1, F2, F3, because it kind of, like a little bit, but not really. You could absolutely modify those formants without doing anything to these areas. Or best way is just stick to the names, like larynx, mouth, lips. That's the best. But yeah, so some people are going to modify their oral space instead of their larynx moving. For those people, I recommend, instead of doing big dog, little dog, we do whispered vowels. Now I've modified this a little bit. Instead of whispered vowels, we now do whispered small words, but the vowel is the focus, okay? The idea is essentially, we start on a vowel, for example, O. We could go for like pot is a short word. We do the same thing, the same thing, but we change pot, okay? Pot, 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 pot. And when you do that, when you do that, you want to make sure that your pot doesn't become corrupted into pat or pet. These are smaller lip sizes and smaller oral sizes, okay? We want to make sure that your pot stays a pot, okay? So we have to move our larynx, all right? Pot, 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 pot. Instead of pot, 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 pot. That one sounded a bit brighter, but my larynx barely moved through it. Okay? Does that make sense? I know that's quite content heavy. I often do skip that bit because it is a bit content heavy, but if people are asking, then I'm totally happy to answer it. For some people, usually you're going to, just through big dog, little dog and whispered vowels, you're going to end up reducing your oral size enough that it doesn't change the sound, it just changes it changes sounds, but not enough that it changes the vowels or the words. Because if you think like your oral size is controlling the words you say. Like as your tongue moves around, as your jaw moves around, like that's how talking works. So we can have a slight modification to that to reduce our oral size. But the more we do that, the closer we get to just straight up changing the words we say. Okay? Hence we do that. Because that's stopping you from changing the word you say. Okay? If your pot becomes a pat, now you've got a different word. So that's a problem. Does that make sense? So by doing the whispered vowel, you force it to be your larynx that moves. Okay? Or at least predominantly your larynx that moves. It doesn't have to be pot. It could be pat or pet or pit. Whatever it is, just make sure it stays the same throughout the whole thing. Pete. Also, whenever you do these exercises, make sure you add a phonation test at the end. So come out of your whisper and do a note, okay? If we're doing classic big dog, little dog, and then we go into some talking, maintaining that same larynx height, or and then we go into some talking, maintaining that same larynx height. You get the idea. If you're masculizing, you do the exact same thing, just the other way around. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Or pot, 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 pot. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm maintaining that same low larynx. Okay? Hopefully that all makes sense. All right, bring your questions. whispered small words and whispered counting are the same exercise, right? Yeah, it's all just variations. For whisper is the important thing. For counting, though, I'm not a huge fan of counting because we're changing the word. The whole point is for us to stay on the same word. If you want to do like, that's fine. Just bring it out into, like make sure during the whisper, it's the same word, okay? Then as you go into your phonation test and you start talking, then it's just anything, just talking. But for the actual whispered bit, that's where we're doing the edit. That wants to be the same word or same sound. The reason we go for a word instead of just a vowel is just because it's easier for you to track. Like it's super easy to hear the difference between pot and pat. It isn't always easy to hear the difference between o and a. In the moment, you can miss that sometimes. Is it okay to have a bit faster breathing when switching to little dog, or should you pay attention to keep your breath even? It stops when you move to actual vocalization. No, that's totally fine. Like if you're doing like and then you're keeping your larynx nice and high as you continue into your talking, that's totally fine. The only thing I don't want you doing is going super, super hard on the breaths, okay? So if you're going like, that's bringing in quite a lot of false fold engagement, quite a bit of tension, okay? Not super great for your voice. Keep it reasonably quiet, as long as you can hear it, that's fine. Don't go super crazy on it. Your voice sounds super goofy when you try to vocalize for little dog. Yeah, that might be the case. It might be that, like, if I go back into my like unmodified voice, I'm in a lower larynx position. I have a closed quotient or a heavy vocal weight. So if I was to maintain it like this, and now I have that closed quotient or heavy vocal weight still, this is still, you've still done the exercise correctly. You've just not done the thing we did before. But right now, we're just working on size / larynx height. So this is totally fine. Right now, I have a raised larynx. That's what we were going for. You would just need to then do the other drill to get your lighter weight or open quotient. Boo, 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 boo. If pot becomes pat, how should you correct it? Don't let it become pat. Just go over every time it becomes pat, start again. Make sure it stays a pot. Specific way you should practice, or is it just going to fix itself with the exercise of time? It's going to fix itself by you consciously fixing it. Like you know how to say pot and you know how to say pat. So if it's turning into a pat, if it's corrupting, you need to change that intentionally. Is it lip positions? Do not worry about what your anatomy is doing. Let your brain figure that out. It's like when I take a drink from here, okay? I undo the clasp, pop up the lid, pop the straw out, and then I drink. And no part did I think about my anatomy there. I wasn't like contract my wrist muscles to manipulate the tendons to do. I don't even know what all the tendons do. I just pick up, clasp down, open, pull up. Okay, that's how I want you to control your voice. Okay? Macro ideas. It's like if you're driving a car, you're not going like I'm going to God, how do cars work again? You're not thinking like, oh, I'm going to increase fuel output to increase the combustion and increase the pressure produced in the pistons. When I turn, I'm going to manipulate the axle such that both wheels turn at the same time. You just go push pedal, faster, turn car. That's the level at which you're thinking. So that's the level at which you're going to think for doing your voice, okay? Big dog, little dog, make the sound like a little dog, okay? Go higher up while you're whispering, okay? Because while we're whispering, pitch isn't being applied, it just sounds like it is. All right? So just go higher up while we're whispering. That's the instruction I want you to give yourself, okay? Or the pot became a pat. Make it a pot again. Okay? That's the instruction you're giving yourself. No worries, no worries. And that applies for everything we've been doing so far. I'm explaining all the anatomy. The reason I explain the anatomy, I know that that can like lean you guys towards trying to control your anatomy. The reason I include it in these workshops is because, sadly, right now, gender voice care, the standards are just in hell. It's really, really bad out there. I don't fully understand why it's so bad, but it's just awful. There's a lot of straight up like trained professional SLPs that are teaching bogus methods that either don't work or in some cases can harm you, or instructions that make no sense at all. You have literal speech language pathologists, like therapists, telling you, speak from your chest. What does speak from your chest mean? That doesn't mean anything. Your voice comes from your throat, from your vocal folds. Speak from your chest means nothing, okay? All these vague nonsense things that people think make sense but don't mean anything, okay? So I want you to have the knowledge so that even if you don't go with me for your teaching, if you go to someone else, I want you to know like whether they're good or bad, okay? If they understand these things and they're explaining these things, they're a good teacher. If they're saying shit like talk from your head or throw your voice, that doesn't mean anything. That's a bad teacher. Is the difference in the curvature of a tongue? Don't ignore that. You know how to say pot. You know how to say pat. I know you know how to say pot, and I know you know how to say pat. Technically it's lip and tongue stuff, but that's like linguistics. If you're a linguistics student, then you can worry about it, and worry about like your phonemes, and go check out the International Phonetic Alphabet. If you are not a linguistics student, you know pot and pat. I guarantee you know pot and pat. All right, see you later, Melissa. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, if you're studying linguistics, that's fine. Just know that that's like a separate thing to learning how to control your voice. Like that's academic stuff. It's very easy for you to when you understand the biology. I just don't want you trying to control things based on biology. Like when we're going as nitty gritty as like how to say a word, you know how to say pot. I know you know how to say pot, and I know you know how to say pat. So stick with that knowledge. Don't try to like, because if you try to bypass that knowledge, it's going to be really unintuitively. But you have an intuitive understanding of pot and pat. You learned that when you were like probably around 1 or 2 years old. So you have that. For mask, you're guessing you would do the yawn, big dog, and the pot pat. So for the mask, everything we've just done is the exact same. We just go down instead of up, okay? Big instead of small, all right? So, pot, 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 pot. Okay? Or pat, 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 pot, 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 pot. Make sure your pat isn't corrupting into a pot, okay? Because you might do that. And then make sure you go into your phonation test afterwards, okay? Pat, 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 pat. Pat. 1, 2, 3. Okay? That's going to be what you're doing. Or alright? 1, 2, 3. Or just any talking here. Okay? That's what you're going for there. And yes, this sounds kind of weird. Okay? It's only when we bring our resonance, our size, our larynx height, whatever word you want to use, in line with our quotient, our weight, that's when things start coming together into the voice you're expecting. Okay? Also, for polyx, you're mentioning the yawn there. You are correct. If you're masculizing and you're just really struggling with this, you just can't make it work. It's gonna be yawn.
and try to talk in that yawning kind of a voice. This will force you into a lowered larynx as you have that increased breath movement. As well as forcing you into that open quotient. So in a yawn voice, you'll always end up open quotient and lowered larynx.
Okay, so you can use that as a little hack. Although ideally, anyone that's using the yawn voice to get anywhere, I'd prefer that to be a stepping stone to move to a different exercise, so you can actually manipulate things instead of being forced into one spot. It's just going to give you better control. Okay, any questions? There's a lot of content when we talk about larynxite, so I want to make sure we're not losing anybody. Also, welcome back, Multi. And if you've missed anything so far in terms of just chunks of workshop, head over to the YouTube if you'd like to. Go back to wherever you were, or if you need to start from the beginning, start from the beginning. And if you just set yourself to like a higher speed, you'll eventually catch up with us. If you are going to do that, make sure that you go back to normal speed when I'm doing a demonstration, because like we don't want, if it's being sped up, the sound is changing. And obviously that's going to ruin the demonstration. So demonstration's always at 1x speed. Should we do weight before resonance, or does the order not matter much? The order doesn't matter much. I tend to find that students have an easier time. Feminizers have an easier time going weight and then larynxite or resonance. Masculizers tend to have an easier time the reverse. So larynxite and then closed quotient. That said, it doesn't really matter. I just tend to find that people do better in that order. But it really, there's no like reason why it would be different. Always a bit you struggle with, however you'll come back to it. Yeah, this is definitely the hardest thing. Learning good manipulation of your larynx is really difficult. So do not worry if this takes a long time. When I first started doing voice training, I already had a pretty good control of my vocal weight, because I was effectively doing that baby exercise with my dog. Like when I talk to my dog, I immediately go into a super light vocal weight, a super open quotient. So I already had an intuitive understanding of how to do that, because that's like my dog voice. Like if I'm talking to a little girl, I'm talking to her like this. So yeah, it was already there for me. Which meant when I was learning this, almost my entire learning was just like 8 months of learning just to figure out my larynxite. So like if this takes you a long time, that's totally fine. Most people spend a really long time on this particular spot. Because it's hard. It is. It's difficult. But remember, it's technically difficult. It's not physically difficult. Okay? If you're feeling strain, if you're feeling that this is physically effortful, you're doing something wrong. People have this really commonly when they're searching for some kind of physical feedback. I had the muscles in the back of my neck were contracting. They're not even related to anything to do with voice. Just my brain was like, oh, I don't know where to point. I can't really sniper. I'm just going to shotgun and just, you guys muscles, you muscles, you do a thing. And so for me, it was the back of my neck was contracting. I've had other people where like their tongue gets really stiff. I've had other people where they screw up their face really tight. I've had people, their jaw gets super locked, just random stuff. If you're finding that something like that is happening, you can try massaging the area to give you some like physical feedback there and to help you reduce that tension. You can also occupy it with something else. Well, you can't really tense with your tongue if you're sticking it out. So try just sticking it out and then doing the and then you're going to talk like this while having your tongue stuck out. Obviously, it's going to sound weird. Obviously, it's going to sound weird, but you're training yourself to move this without moving this. Okay? Same goes for anything. So for me, I was gently rolling my neck as I was doing my And that taught me to not tense up the back of my neck as I was raising my larynx. Okay? So whatever it is that you're doing, whatever extra muscle is contracting, if that's an issue for you, try to find some way to occupy it, doing something else so that it can't tense up. Or try to massage it so you get some physical feedback from there so it's easier to relax it. Or just focus on intentionally relaxing it. And some people will manage that. Most people can't intuitively do that, but if you can, then great. No worries, Beth. Thank you so much for coming. We have 2 Beths today. I thought you were just in both Discords. That's 2 different Beths. Very cool. Any other questions about larynx height stuff? Because this is a big, big topic. I'm just checking if I've missed any questions. I think I've got everything, but if there is a question that I've missed, just like do a reply message to that and at me so that I can find it. You're not sure what you're doing wrong? Yeah, as Beth says, when I do the one-on-one session, speak up and I will give you some specific guidance. Okie dokie, let's move on then. Oh, last thing there, make sure, again, you're not moving pitch. You're moving your larynx height, okay? I don't want you going, okay? That's pitch stuff, all right? Usually this happens when people try to fix, let's say their larynx drops again. If they try to fix it in real time, I want you to re-drill when it happens, okay? So when you're practicing, you'll do your drill, you'll do some talking. As it starts to drop away again, you re-drill. Don't try to fix it without the drill, okay? You always use the drill, okay? You'll know that you don't need the drill because you will like not even drop anymore, okay? Always, always, always re-drill, okay? Even if it's like several times a sentence, re-drill, 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 re-drill every single time it drops, okay? Because that's how you're building that muscle memory. Same for quotient stuff. Re-drill every single time, re-drill. Okay? Good practice with these things, by the way. I don't want you doing like a 1 hour long practice where you just spend that hour practicing stuff and then you don't do anything else the rest of the day. That sucks. That's trash exercise. If you're figuring out how to do a thing and you're going to keep going until you figured it out, I'm okay with that. But what I don't want is, oh no, my camera's gone. I didn't plug it in. Oh, I didn't plug it in. I do have a portable charger I can use. Does this have any battery? Yeah, it does. Let me just... Oh, I can't believe I've done that. It's not even the cable came out. I just forgot to plug it in. Give me a second to plug that in. I'll give it a minute to charge and then we'll get the camera back on. It's a good thing we've done all the demo stuff. I'll get that back on in a minute or so. What was I saying? Yeah, always re-drill. An hour-long practice is fine if you're figuring stuff out. That's like an exploration. It's not a practice. If you're just practicing something, then you want to be going, you want to literally just like 3 or 4 minutes. That's totally fine. But I want like at least 3 practices a day. 4 or 5 would be great. Okay? If you're doing like 5 practices every day, even if they're for like a minute each, that's totally fine. That's what I'm after. Okay? Just regularly going back over it, okay? That's the best way for you to learn this stuff. All right? So 2 types of practice. There is figuring something out, an exploration. That can take longer because you're just doing it until you've figured it out. Then there is just practicing the thing, and that's just going over it regularly, okay? 4 or 5 times a day. Any questions? Any questions about practice? Any questions about larynx height before we move on? Does everybody feel like they fully understand this? If there's something you don't get, you want to be asking a question. All the noises you're hearing right now of me moving stuff around are me
Sure.
figuring it out. Are me figuring out the camera.
If that's correct, I'll break the ice here.
Sure. I'm down for a little demo. Go for it.
Okay. I think that I'm not bad at moving larynx up, but I'd like to know what I'm doing. So the transfer between the sigh and the voice is the part that bugs me the most. So like I'm gonna go for like the big dog, small dog, and then transfer and see like what you think about how I can
Oh,
like
do you mean
pitch
like
it into
putting both
noise
drills together?
together.
Are you meaning like doing your larynx height drill and then doing your quotient drill? Or are you meaning something else?
I meant like I just want to show you like I'll do like the big
Give me a
dog,
demo, give me a demo
little
so I know
dog,
what we're talking
and then try to like continue the larynx position into voice, and like this is the transition part that I'm bugging with.
Give it a go.
It's
Let me
like-
see what's happening.
Okay, so it's gonna go.
Pause. Anybody that, and this is going to be relevant to when we do one-on-ones later. Anybody that wants any one-on-one attention, I need you to change your Discord settings. So you have to go into your user settings.
Oh,
You need to go down to voice and video, switch it to manual, and then set the slider all the way to the left. It should say minus 100 decibels. Also, keep scrolling down quite a bit further. Eventually, you'll find something called crisp. Okay, it's your what is it again? It's your noise suppression. Okay, I want noise suppression to be set to none. All right, those two things are blocking the whispers, so we need both of them turned off. Because otherwise, your Discord will turn off your mic when you're whispering, and I won't hear anything.
apparently I did the exact opposite of. Wait, how does this? Okay, is that better?
So voice
here?
and video needs to be set to.
I maxed out the
further left.
sensitivity and turned off crisp.
So you want
Should be
you want
nice.
no input sensitivity. Yeah. You're doing it right. I can tell you're doing it right because the green circle is
Okay.
on all the time. Will
Okay,
you have
good.
to pay for one-on-one later? No. All of this workshop is 100% free. Brought to you by the people that are sponsored over at Ko-fi. If you'd like to support these workshops, head over to the Ko-fi. I appreciate the fuck out of everybody that does that. There are people bringing this to you right now. So huge big ups to them. Beth in Trans Academy right now. We see you there with your yellow name. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Give me a big dog, small dog.
Right up.
Okay, it's going super breathy there. Do you hear that? Bring it to normal phonation. That breathiness can come away again, okay? So I want... Yes. Okay? Full drill again.
From the beginning? Full drill?
Yep. want that as one smooth thing. You've got a gap in the middle. I want without that breathy bit in the middle. Now, that breathy bit, I actually don't mind it too much, so long as you're doing it on purpose. If you're accidentally doing it, I want you to get rid of it. You can use that as a sort of bridging thing to help you go from one to the other. But even if you do that, it wants to be like this. Yeah, so by the end of it, you're in normal phonation. That's pretty good. You've definitely got a slight larynx drop there. That's going to come in practice. So just keep practicing it. But that's a good demonstration of a drill. So everybody, that's how you do it. Okay?
Thank you.
Very nice demo. Thank you. All right, let's move forward. So, and anybody else that's wanting one-on-ones, remember we'll have a one-on-one section at the end. Everybody gets to participate. Literally, everybody that wants to go one-on-one will get a turn. The workshop doesn't end until everybody that wants a turn has had a turn. So don't worry about that. Okay, so well done. You've figured out how to change your quotient. You've figured out how to change your larynx height. Now is the last part of gendered voice modification. Fullness, all right? Fullness is the concept of your quotient, your weight, being in line with your vocal tract size, your larynx height, okay? Your resonance, for people who use that. If you have a light vocal weight, an open quotient, paired with a high larynx, that's going to sound, quote unquote, normal. Same thing in reverse. If you have a heavy vocal weight, closed quotient, paired with a lowered larynx, a darker resonance, okay, that's going to sound, quote unquote, normal. All right? It's when we have these things out of sync, they get a bit more cartoonish. All right? So, for example, if I have a raised larynx with a more closed quotient, I'm going to start sounding more like this. This is obviously, you don't really hear many people talking like this. People in cartoons sometimes sound like this. So like your cartoon gnome sometimes sounds like this. Your cartoon like nerd sometimes sounds a bit like this. I'm sure you can think of various cartoon characters that sound more like this, okay? Or if I go to the opposite
Side, if I have a lowered larynx or having a light vocal weight and open quotient, I literally can't do that without yawning. Now I sound like other cartoon characters, typically larger. Sometimes it sounds dumber, dopier. Patrick kind of sounds like this from SpongeBob SquarePants. Hi, this is Patrick. No, this is Patrick. Yeah, he kind of sounds like this. Or, I'm smarter than the average bear. Okay, Yogi Bear kind of sounds like this. If I just add some breathiness. Pooh Bear kind of sounds like this. Oh, I do love honey.
Yeah, so all sorts of different cartoon characters are going to have that characteristic hollow sound, that underfull, or that overfull sound, where things are out of sync. Okay, they're not very full. All right? Things sound more normal if we stick to that fullness line. Now, I say stick to the fullness line. You can move away from it, veer away from it quite a lot without it going cartoonish. Okay? So long as you're in that quadrant of femme full or masc full, you're going to sound normal. But different cultures have different like areas that they'll set on that graph. All right? So for example, people from like Latino countries, Latino speaking countries, they're going to be speaking with more of a slightly more overfull, but still in that full area. Speaking for the femme speakers there, I don't know as much as a masc. I think they just are generally a heavier quotient. So just in general, that's what's happening there. What else? We have British voices tend to just have a lower larynx. So you end up with a more hollow kind of a sound for femme, or just even your masc is going to be more hollow, but it's still going to be within masc, because we're just going down without increasing the quotient, the close quotient. but everything stays within that in those quadrants. So my voice probably sounds a little bit hollow to you, okay? But still sounds femme. That's what's going on there. Like, I'm not talking like this all the time. I'm talking like this all the time, okay? So I have a slightly more lowered larynx, all right? Hence, when I've done the larynx drills and gone into the talking, it sounded different to how I talk normally, because that's me going at my highest larynx height, perfectly full. Valley Girl, East Coast America, no, West Coast America? I don't know my geography. Wherever California is, the Mean Girls accent, Seattle's over there, wherever that bit of America is, West Coast, thank you. You can tell I'm British. Yeah, West Coast America have like almost perfectly full voices. There is a bit of an issue in trans voice where we don't really have a ton of diversity. I don't know why this has happened or how this happened, but every freaking vocal coach is from West Coast America. I don't get it. They all are. I don't understand at all. I can think of me and one other that aren't from West Coast America. I don't get it. There's a few Europeans entering the field recently, but like 90% are from West Coast America. I don't get it, but it's a thing. So a lot of people think that you need a Valley Girl voice to do femme voice. You don't. And there's various different things that come into a Valley Girl voice. It's not just the fullness thing. People think you need to be perfectly full. People think you need to like have an American accent. You don't need any of that. So long as you're raising your larynx and going for an open quotient, you're doing femme voice. So long as you're lowering your larynx and doing a more closed quotient, you're doing masc voice, okay? If you're going somewhere in the middle, you're doing androgynous voice, okay? You don't know why your voice tends towards an American accent, even though you're not American. It's because of this fullness thing. Two things. It's because of this fullness thing, because that West Coast American accent has that perfect fullness, and because just a lot of them are, a lot of coaches that you've seen, that you've got inspiration from, are West Coast America. I don't know why, it just is the case. Voice Art Project server are Aussie. That's cool. It's because San Francisco concentrated the queer community? I see. Fair enough. Maybe that's why. But then that speaks for America. What about the rest of the world? Why can I think of 2 British vocal coaches? I don't get it. But I can think of loads of Americans. Could you redefine weight and size again? Do you mean fullness, or do you mean like going all the way back over? Oh, yeah, no. Do you mean go all the way back over weight and size? Weight, quotient, same thing from different lenses. Weight is like the sound. Quotient is what's actually happening. Size, vocal tract size, lower larynx, bigger larynx size, higher larynx, smaller larynx size. Yeah? And the resulting sound is like a brighter resonance, okay? Or a darker resonance. These are all like terms that are just going at the thing from a different lens. Yeah, high equals small equals bright. Yeah, that's fine. Just know that, like, technically no, because they're looking at different things. They're all going over, like, what it is. If we're talking height, we're talking about mechanics. If we're talking small, we're kind of also talking mechanics and, like, moving towards acoustics. If we're talking bright, we're talking, like, a more subjective sound sounds brighter kind of a thing. Yeah, if you're having issues with like your accent, worry about that later. I did the same thing at first. If it's going American, watch out for your R's. That's like the big one. Like if your R's, in fact, I'm just going to do it without changing anything else in my accent. If your R, instead of, so I'm British, I go R. If you're going R, that's moving more American, okay? It's called a rhotic R, okay? R, area, instead of area. I guess no, that's the same. Bear, beer, okay? That is a more rhotic R, is much, much more American, especially West Coast America. Again, if you're struggling with accent stuff, that can be harder to fix on your own. Speak to me or another vocal coach, and they'll be able to give you some better advice. You don't necessarily need to be getting lessons. Like if you come to me and say, hey, here's a clip of my voice, I'm worried it's becoming this accent, what things should I change? I will just tell you. Northeast American is also non-rhotic. I didn't know that. But also say China. Yeah, okay, well, so then they have some rhoticity going on. It might even also just be in certain words. Okay, any questions about fullness? Okay. In fact, while you get your questions about fullness, I've been drinking a lot. I'm going to pee again. I know, it's insane. Getting my boyfriend to refill my water for me. Okie dokie, let's have a look. That's why you're happy you found there was a British voice trainer. Yes, I know. I'm one of a few British ones. The only other British voice trainer I know is Addy from, what's it called? Addy's Nook? Addy's Nook. Okay, if there are no more questions about fullness, then that completes our trans voice section. So, last little segment about your voice, all right? Making your voice your own. It's kind of like what we've been talking about just now, all right? Not every femme voice, not every masc voice, not every androgynous voice sounds the same. You can tell different people apart, even if they are the same gender presentation. That's because there's a lot that goes into voice outside of just the gender presentation. Okay? This is just a short list of some of those things. It is not everything. Okay? A few different things we can think about. Fry is something that some people quite like. Specifically, it's fry creak. Okay? If I start talking like this is creak. Okay? You can hear that popping in my voice. All right? That's creak. Okay? If you think of like Raven from Teen Titan, she uses a ton of creak in her voice. Okay, she's like permanently in creak. Okay, thank you. Oh, wonderful water. So much better. Yeah, Raven from Teen Titan, her voice is like constantly drowned in creak. My voice, I sometimes use some creak, especially as I'm getting a bit more tired. I start using a lot more creak. You'll have heard throughout this workshop, I've had quite a bit of creak, especially as we've been in the latter half. And as we go forward from here, you're going to be hearing more and more creak coming into my voice. Because we are past my normal bedtime. So yeah, creak is something that some people like it. Creak also, to the untrained ear, sounds a little bit like effort. It is not something that represents effort in any way, but some people hear it that way for some reason. So what you can do is you can take advantage of that. All right? Ignore that. Boo, 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 boo. Yeah, that is fine. Excuse me. Yeah, so you can take advantage of that. All right. So specifically for the feminizers, if you want to, you can pretend that your pitch has a higher floor than it actually has. So let's say like this is as low as we can go. Okay. If I just go over here and I pretend, I think it's because of a grave extension, because the grave extension features a lot of fry. So people think that when they hear fry, you're going into the grave extension. They don't obviously know those words, but they think that you're going into that weird sound where it gets all groggy. Okay? So if you just add a load of fry, let's say this is your, like the floor of your pitch. Let's say that you add a bunch of fry here. It will sound, every time you go here, you add fry, specifically creak. If every time you go here, you add a bunch of creak, it will sound like that's the floor of your pitch. Okay? So if you're going like, and every time I go down here, I'm adding a bunch of creak. And so I'm having to come back up here because this is the easier place for me. When actually I could go like, okay, and I can be all the way down here. Yeah, these are just different little mods that you can do to create that little illusion. You don't have to do that. I don't do that. But some people like to, so you can enjoy that if you want to. Lismara, you're heading off. No worries. Have lovely sleepings. Yeah, thank you for coming. Pitch. We've talked about pitch a few times. I even mentioned how your testosterone exposure to your vocal folds is going to stretch them out, which is going to encourage a lower pitch. That's true. However, there are a lot of women that use lower pitches. There are a lot of men who use higher pitches. It doesn't really impact the sound, the gendering of their voice. If you have a higher pitched masculine voice, it sounds like a higher pitched masculine voice. If you have a lower pitched feminine voice, it just sounds like a lower pitched feminine voice. I have a lower pitched feminine voice. It still sounds feminine. Okay? I'm like near my pitch floor for most of my talking. Like if I go back to my unmodified voice from before I did any voice training, and then I just go up in pitch without changing anything else, and now I have a higher pitch with my voice. Does this sound like less masculine to you? Or does it just sound like I'm doing a higher pitched voice? That's what's going on with pitch. I call it like gendered 0.5. On average, women have higher pitch. On average, men have lower pitch. You can be outside of that. It's not going to affect the gendering at all. So, in my opinion, stick the pitch wherever you want it to. So long as you have a high enough pitch that you're not entering grave. For the open quotient people, so long as you're not like having to add extra closed quotient, then you're fine. Breathiness. Some people quite like breathiness. If you just add like a little bit of breathiness, some people quite like that. Some people find it sounds more feminine. Some people might be aware of like the sultry voice where you go a little bit lower in pitch and you add a bit of breathiness and now it sounds kind of sultry. That's a voice that some people like. Twang is a thing. A lot of people say that this makes your voice sound more feminine. I don't hear it myself. So if I was to add twang, this sounds like twang right now. Personally, I don't think this sounds more feminine. It just sounds twangy. This is something that's quite common in various accents. The south of North America, like Texas and all of that, tend to have a bit of twang going on in their voice. So that's something you could have if you want to. If you're trying to figure out how to do twang, a nice little exercise you can do is just do like a cartoon baby crying, like wah, wah, wah. Okay, and then bring that twang into your voice. This is you now talking with twang. Okay, yeah, that's twang. Yeah, a lot of people say that sounds more femme. I don't hear it, but I guess you can have a go with that if you want to. It does like project the volume a bit. But yeah, that doesn't sound more femme to me. But I'll leave that to you guys to decide. And then lastly, accent. This is something we talked about earlier. Different accents play around fullness sometimes. And so sometimes we end up changing our accent accidentally. if this is you and you want to reclaim your accent, by all means do so. Speak to me or speak to another coach about the specifics of what are changing. There's all sorts of things that change in accents. Different things that we've talked about in this customization can feature differently in accents. We can also have like the way you say certain words and vowels can be a bit different. Literally some accents use different vowels. Like an A might be more like an A, or like an O might be more like an O. Okay, that's two different vowels. All right. So yeah, your accent is kind of all over the place since you're from Midwest and West Coast. But there. Do I just find one I'm comfortable with and run with it? Yeah, your accent can be whatever of it. All of this customization stuff, okay? I call this non-gendered stuff. This is just wherever you want to put it, you put it there. It's just a matter of constructing a voice that you're happy with. Because it's not necessarily, for some people, it's not just going to be about feminizing or masculizing. They'll want like a specific sounding voice. For me, when my voice started going American, I wanted to fix that because I wanted to still sound British. That was important to me. And so I did that. I fixed that. It was mainly Rota Car. But yeah, it's just a matter of making your voice a voice that you're happy with because it's your voice. So that's important. Okay, any questions on this customization stuff? I do not see any questions. Okay. All right. And this completes our workshop today. So, special thanks to those that need it. This workshop is brought to you by the people that sponsor over at Ko-fi. Our entire income right now as Trans Network is from the Ko-fi. For the past, is it 6 months yet since November? Whatever it is. I think, yeah, it is. For the past 6 months, I have been teaching, and like to this day, all of my private teaching I do for free. Everything that I do on Trans Network, I do for free, because I've been learning, and I've been learning to teach. So because of that, obviously I've had no income to do this with, and I've had to be working my full-time job. The Ko-fi supporters, okay, these people are bringing money into Trans Network. I'm able to reinvest that and do more things. All right. We do makeup workshops now. I hired a makeup artist to do makeup workshops in my server. That's because of the Ko-fi people. We wouldn't have been able to do that without their help. So super huge thank you to the people that support a Ko-fi. And if you found this helpful and you want to help support Trans Network and me teaching people, then head over to the Ko-fi and sign up to the membership tier that you'd like to sign up to. I do have some exclusive content over there. I do plan to do more. Sorry to the people that are at the Ko-fi that haven't had a lot of content there. I will be adding more. I've just been so focused on the teacher training. But as I do more, I will add more to that. And yeah, so that I promise there will be more content there. I promise. Yeah, if you want to support what we do, head over to the Ko-fi. I can't describe how much it helps. Okay. So huge thank you to our Ko-fi supporters. At tier 1, we have Red Kitten, we have M, we have Mihuggy, and we have Himori. So huge thank you to those people. If you see them, freaking pat them on back. All right. Huge thank you to those people. At tier 2, oh my gosh, Lanmisa, thank you so much. You crazy. Beth at tier 3. I see you right there, Beth. Oh my gosh.
You're welcome.
That's not happened live before. Grave Robbed, Maria, thank you so much for supporting at the Ko-fi. That's not happened before. Thank you. That's crazy. Did that pop up on the because I've been setting that up today. Blah. You've destroyed my ability to talk. Did that pop up on the stream thing? It should have, but if it didn't, that means I haven't done it right. So let me know if that popped up, because if it didn't, then I need to fix something. Thank you so much, Grave Robbed Maria, for supporting it with Ko-fi. So you are also one of the people that are bringing Trans Network to everybody, that are bringing these workshops. That's huge. Thank you so much. What popped up? Hopefully, we just got a brand new Ko-fi supporter. Thank you, Grave Robbed Maria. And I believe I've set things up so that there is a pop-up on screen when that happens. It should be right above where that grey Ko-fi link is. Yeah, it did. It popped up. Okay, good. That means I did it right. Okay, that's really good. I got less sound on my end, but I didn't know if that was just my end. And it also does a little message in the YouTube chat, which also helps. But I have a lot of things that pop up on my screen when that happens, so it's like very overwhelming. But yeah, thank you so much, Grave Robbed Maria. That's huge. And also, huge thank you to Beth, okay? In Trans Network, you have a yellow name for a reason. Our tier 3 supporter, okay? That's like big money. So huge thank you to Beth. You're crazy for that. That's just, yeah, I don't have words for you, Beth. You are amazing. Thank you so much. These people are why you have your workshop right now. These people are why we have the makeup workshops. I should talk about that as well. If you would like to get more, right now I do these workshops in Trans Voice. I do them in Trans Academy. I do them on the YouTube, and I do them on Trans Network, all simultaneously. But that's the only thing I do to all of them, okay? YouTube gets all the workshops, so they also get the makeup workshop. But the best place to go for all content is the Discord. A Discord link is below me there. You can also click on, for all of you, I would have pinged you, and it would be the Zara's12 account that pinged you. If you head over to that account, there is a click-through link to my Discord, so you can join. If you're really struggling, just DM me. I can send you a link. It is an 18+ server. The only reason for that, there's nothing like 18+ about it. I just don't feel comfortable being responsible for minors, especially with Discord. I don't like that, like, any person can just go find the minors and then DM them. That's insane, and I can't believe that that's a thing that is able to happen in Discord, but it is. So for that reason, we keep things 18+. But for any minors that are in our community, you're welcome everywhere else, just not with Discord, because I can't keep you safe. Cool. Okay. So yeah, head over to the Discord for basically just everything we do. And head over to the YouTube for all of the content that is like, if you want to rewatch your VODs and stuff. All of that is there. Also, when you're watching these workshops, if you're having issues with video quality, head over to the YouTube. That's always got a good video quality. Okay, I think that is all the plugs. I still can't get over that live freaking Grave Robbed Maria. Thank you so much. You crazy. Okay, and we're also going to give an extra special thanks to Crammed Voice Lessons over in Synguistics. Crammed Voice Lessons, Charles. Charles is currently training me, like right now. The teacher training that I've been referencing is over in Synguistics, and it's Charles that's been doing that for me. He's doing that for free. Like, he's training me to help you guys for free, which is amazing. So head over to the Synguistics Discord server. They have amazing resources over there. Really good shit over in Synguistics. So head over there. It will support your learning. Tomorrow, they have a Trans Voice Lounge at 2 p.m. UTC. Highly recommend that. That's like one of the best forms of practices there are. Let me double check. What week are they on? They rotate between larynx height and quotient. And they are currently on... They are on larynx height. So if you want to practice your larynx height and you want live feedback, head over there tomorrow, 2 p.m. UTC. Our friend of a stream, Lexi, is going to be hosting. So I super recommend that. No, it's not Lexi. It's someone else. Never mind. That was the other one. Maybe it is Lexi. I don't know. It's somebody. Either way, head over to that. It's just good practice, if nothing else. But yeah, huge thank you to Charles for straight up just training me for free. If you'd like to be part of an next training cohort, the way I did it was just show up to anything and everything Charles is doing, whether it's a lesson that you're shadowing, because they do public lessons over there, or an event or whatever. Just show up, ask questions, show intellectual interest. If you're showing interest in wanting to understand everything and you express interest in wanting to become a teacher, he will invite you to the next teacher training cohort. I don't know when it'll be, but that's how I did it. It should work for you. And yeah, I think that is everything. So, let's head over to the just chatting screen. Oh, and the YouTube chat is working as well. I freaking did it. I did the things. Everything works. Yay. Hopefully the YouTube alert box works as well. And that means I did it all right. We finally fixed that, everybody. That's been like that. That's just been a plain white box for months. I got around to doing it. So you should all be very proud of me. Okie dokie. So if anybody has any questions about anything we've covered so far, let me know now in the chats. Also, if somebody would like one-on-one feedback on their voice, then they can ask me now. The way I do that is speak next to go next. So whoever speaks next gets to go next. And at the same time, everybody can be typing the questions in chat so I can get to them once I've finished that one-on-one person. So yeah, if anybody would like some feedback right now, make yourself known. Can you get a bit of feedback for the lip troll? Yeah, of course. Just unmute your mic and speak up.
Okay. So that was me earlier who was like, okay, if I do the drill, I just stop at one point.
Yeah, give it a go. Let me have a listen.
Like.
Okay, what I'm initially hearing is we have like a ton of pressure. It sounds like you're going like. Is that what's happening?
It's also better if I start with like even more pressure and a bit higher.
What I want is your lips to be more relaxed. Relax your lips. They shouldn't be like pushing together. It should just be nice. Yeah? Perfect. Okay, now add some sound into it. Try to stabilize that. Don't worry about moving up and down for now. Just give me a sound. It's like if you're going, ah. Like if I just open my mouth as I'm doing it. Guessing there. Go again from Patrol.
No. Sorry, I lost it.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you see how your high pitch there translated into a higher pitch in Patrol? So you're doing the same thing. It's just called phonation. You're just making sound, okay?
Yeah, so I feel like it's easier doing it in high pitch. Like
it should be the exact same. It should be the exact same.
No, low pitch is more like.
Then you're doing something different in the lower pitches than you're doing your high pitch. It might be something that's a quirk with you. Try and figure out what it is.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
now.
Damn it, now I'm nervous.
So something's happening. Good. Okay, Okay, can you, from your higher pitch, we'll try this. From your higher pitch, can you just slide it down? Go again. That thing you did where you went like super, super loud, avoid doing that. So I don't want like a... I just want... Okay, try to get a bit of movement. Okay, so your homework, you need to practice that. Get it nice and consistent, okay? I think you're having issues with your airflow mainly, where it's just very unstable. So issues with your airflow and maybe issues with your lips as well. Oh, try this. This might make it easier, actually. Just apply a little bit of pressure on your cheeks. Okay, that didn't change anything. So never mind. That's not the thing. So you're managing at a higher pitch. So whatever pitch it is that's working for you, this isn't anything intuitive to anything specific to the drill. This is just a quirk that you seem to have, which is fine. So use it. If you can do a higher pitch, do a higher pitch, and then start dragging down and just start moving up and down. Okay. As you do that, slow it down. Slow the movement down. Getting better. Getting better. When that started to cut out there, did you run out of breath, or was it just a technique issue?
No, it's just kind of cuts out.
Yeah? Yeah, it sounds like the issue is your lips. Like you're struggling to... Because initially you were going like... And now you're going like... No, you're not even doing that. You're going... And stuff like that. So it sounds like you're just trying to figure out that lip pressure thing. To start off, just keep it as a... Try to get that consistent so it's not going into a... Yeah? Good, 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 good. Now add sound back in. That was good. That was good. Okay. So, like that, and start getting some movement up and down, up and down, up and down. Build it, build it, build it. You'll get better and better. You might also do a few bubble phonations just to figure out the pressure stuff in terms of your phonation, because that will just give you really good technique. Bubble phonations you will always intuitively do for best technique. That's why it's so good. So just literally straw, dunk it in, about an inch, maybe 2 inches. Play around with that. That might help you as well.
Yeah. Gotta see about getting a straw.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, well.
All right, if you want to mute up, I'll go to the next person and I can come back to you once you've got your straw. Okay, who would like
I don't have a straw in my household at all.
Oh, you don't have... Okay, no worries, no worries. Okay, you get a straw, and then come back to that. Order one on eBay or something. Get a metal one, that way it's reusable. Boo, 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 boo. You need to go, no worries. Okay, would anybody else like some help with anything? Just unmute and speak. Whoever goes next gets to go next.
I just want to thank you for doing all this.
Yeah, you're super welcome. You're super welcome, Beth. And thank you for paying for this, like straight up. Yeah, thank you for sponsoring all of this. It's really cool.
I figure as long as I'm making it, I got to do something with it.
Well, I super, super appreciate that. And I'm sure everybody here super, super appreciates you doing that. Because that's, I mean, you're helping pay for like everybody else's education. So it's amazing. It is. It's gushy. All right, would anybody else like some help with anything to do with their voice? If there is nobody, then we might be finishing off.
I don't have anything specific. I just I don't really know what I'm doing, to be honest. I feel
Okay.
like I'm not very confident. Like I basically just started out, so and I
Yeah,
also
no worries, no worries.
I mean, I guess like one thing is that I often find myself just accidentally slipping back into my
Yeah.
my usual pitch, and yeah, I don't really know how to break that habit.
Yeah, so if you're sliding in, like, if you're sliding back to your unmodified voice, it's just a practice thing. So when you practice, okay, you want to literally listen to your voice. If you're saying that it slides back, that means you're hearing it slide back, which is really good, okay? If you're hearing it, you can fix it. So listen to your voice as you do the drill, okay? Once you've gotten to the end of the drill, listen to the resultant sound, okay? So let's say we're doing quotient. Just listen to that for a little bit. Get that like in your head as you go into the talking. And now you have that lighter vocal weight, that open quotient, okay? And if we start having things going back buzzy again, we just re-drill. And then we're going to keep talking. And then if things start to get a little bit heavier again, and then we'll continue going. And even if we don't get through a full sentence, like, doesn't matter, re-drill, re-drill, re-drill. In time, you're going to get better at it, okay? It's just going to be a practice thing. So practice as often as time allows. 4 or 5 times a day is a really good practice regime, even if it's just for a minute or two. And when we do practices, I want it to be, I don't like reading practices. I would much prefer you to just be talking. Sometimes I use reading stuff for lessons. That's just so that, like, it's more so that I can have something to analyze, and I can quickly do something. Like, it's just more time efficient. But in terms of your actual practice, I want you to be just talking, okay?
Okay.
You can talk about anything. You could talk about the day you've been having or what your plans are for the day. You can explain a subject to yourself, just any talking, okay? Yeah, does that answer your question, Multi?
Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. And again, if you need a reminder of any of the drills, this VOD will be staying up on YouTube forever. So just rewatch the VOD, find the bit that's relevant, and that'll be great. Eventually, I'm going to, in fact, I might even, these drills have been pretty good today. I might chop up some of the workshop and upload it on YouTube as its own little things, so that there are like easy things to go to. So like, here's the quotient word, and it can just be a video. Here's the larynx type, and it can just be a video. Yeah. Those are all plans that I need to get around to doing. Okay, would anybody else like some help with anything? Anybody have any questions? Anybody want me to go back over something? Anybody want me to give some feedback on their voice? Now is the time for that. If not, then it looks like we've gotten through everybody. So, I thought there was going to be way more people. It sounded like there was more people needing out, but I guess we're okay. So, thank you all so much for coming. You have until I finish this little bit to interrupt me, otherwise we will be finishing now. So thank you all so much for coming. Like, legitimately, these workshops don't work when I'm just speaking into the void. I need that audience participation, so thank you so much for participating. Huge thank you to our Ko-fi supporters. Again, Beth, that's here right now. Thank you to Beth. Graverod Maria, freaking sponsoring us live on air. Thank you so much. Do we have anybody else that's here right now? Mihoki was here earlier. Huge thank you to Mihoki. Yeah, for people that sponsor us over at Ko-fi, you are making this happen. So thank you so, so much. Also, news. As I mentioned earlier, my last teacher training is tomorrow. So Trans Network goes full live. We've kind of been like a beta phase since August when I started it. We will be moving out of that into like a full launch next week, I suppose. So I'll still be setting up like logistics and like setting up the Discord properly. But I'll be making a big announcement soon on the Discord. And essentially, you are now going to be able to hire me for private lessons. I'm thinking of doing it at... I think I'm set on doing it as £20 for a 55-minute lesson. It's the cheapest I have seen. Nobody seems to do it cheaper than that. So I think that's pretty fair. £20 for a 55-minute lesson. And that's a private lesson. You can still get a public lesson for free. So it's the exact same, but other people can listen in. And I get permission to upload it onto the YouTube if I feel like it has been a useful, informative lesson that other people can learn from. What else have we got? Also, I still need to figure out the logistics of this, but I'm looking at doing something along the lines of, if you refer 3 people to the private lessons, then you can have private lessons for free. It's just a temporary thing while we're building back up. I just wanted there to be something so that you could get private lessons for free still, because I know that some people need it to be private and just can't afford it. And while £20 is literally the cheapest, like, I get it. You know, right now I'm very, very poor, so I get not having money. So yeah, £20 55-minute lesson for totally private, free 55-minute lesson for it being a public shadowable lesson, and free private lessons if you refer 3 other people to the private lessons and they sign up for a minimum of the number 3 lessons and like pay for those. Yeah, I think that's what we're doing. I suppose if anybody has any questions about that, let me know. All of those things are things that we do in the Discord. We also have free makeup workshops that happen on the last Friday of every month. I think this month we moved it to the Sunday because of Lee's availability. But we have our very own professional makeup artist over there that specializes in LGBT people. So head over there. They do amazing stuff. And that will be really useful for you. You can also hire Lee for private consultations. I'm still setting up that. I'm mainly just been having some issues with Ticket Tool, but I will get that fixed. I think it's the 30th of that month, this month, yeah. We do have it as an event in the Discord. It's not on this month because obviously we changed the date, but normally it's the last Friday of every month, and it says that on the Discord in the events section. If you check in makeup, we did discuss when it's going to be. I will double check with Lee what we settled on because we just asked the audience, and I'll make like an announcement thing. Oh no, check announcements because we asked the audience. The one that got the most emojis is what we moved it to. So yeah, check the straw polls is where you need to look in that, not announcements, sorry. Cool. So yeah, head over to the Discord for just everything we do. And if you're wanting lessons, as I say, they'll start again from next week. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to be trying to shift this to being my full-time gig. I'm basically going to be 1, selling my gardening business as well as all my tools, and 2, just selling as many possessions as I can so that I can build up as big a float as possible so that I can survive on the float while we build up Trans Network. As I say, I'm not a very wealthy person at all. I'm quite poor, but we're going to make it work. So, yeah. thank you all so much for coming, and I will see you next week, or I'll see you in the Discord. So have a wonderful night, everybody. Okay.